fluorescent lights of Central Station flickered as Ethan Warner locked the maintenance office door. 2:47 a.m. His shift supervisor had left hours ago, leaving him to finish the final checks alone. Rain pelted the glass roof above, creating a rhythmic symphony that echoed to the empty corridors. He hefted the garbage bag over his shoulder. His ex-girlfriend's parting gift had been demanding he clean out his life. Inside were clothes that no longer fit, a leather jacket with a torn sleeve from his college days, faded band t-shirts, jeans worn thin at the knees. The donation bin stood by the south exit, its metal mouth gaping in the dim light. Ethan didn't pause as he dropped the bag inside. The heavy thud felt satisfying, final. One less thing tying him to past. The walk back through the station felt longer than usual. His footsteps echoed off the tile floors, past shuttered newsstands and closed coffee kiosks. He'd worked here for 3 years, knew every corner, every shadow, which is why the movement behind Platform 7 caught his attention immediately. Platform 7 had been closed for renovation 6 months ago and never reopened. Budget cuts. The area was supposed to be sealed off, but Ethan had found homeless people back there before. Usually, he'd call in, let security handle it. But something about tonight felt different. He approached slowly, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. Hello? Station's closed. You can't be here. A figure huddled near the old tracks jerked upright. A woman. Even from 20 feet away, Ethan could see she was shivering violently. And she was wearing his jacket, the brown leather one with a distinctive rip along the right sleeve. How did you, he started, then his words died in his throat. She stepped into his flashlight beam, and Ethan's mind struggled to process what he was seeing. She looked human at first glance, dark hair falling past her shoulders, slender build, delicate features. But her eyes, they caught the light like a cat's, glowing with an inner luminescence that had nothing to do with the reflection. And her skin, where it showed her collar and wrists, was marked with intricate patterns that seemed to shimmer and shift like oil on water. Please, she whispered, her voice carrying an unusual cadence, as if English was something she'd learned phonetically. Please don't alarm. I need help. Ethan took an involuntary step backward, his hand reaching for his radio. This wasn't possible. This couldn't be real. The woman raised her hands, a universal gesture of peace, and he noticed her fingers were slightly longer than they should be, the proportions just wrong enough to trigger something primal in his brain. Your clothes. I'm sorry. So cold. My ship crashed. I'm hiding. Ship. The word hung in the air between them. Then Ethan heard it. The distant rumble of vehicles, the sweep of powerful searchlights cutting through the rain outside. The woman's eyes widened in terror, and she pressed herself against the wall. They're coming, she breathed. They always come. Ethan's training told him to hit the emergency button on his radio. Unknown intruder. Possible mental health crisis. Let the authorities handle it. But something in the woman's eyes, that raw, desperate fear, froze his hand halfway to his belt. Who's coming? He asked, though part of him already knew. Government. Military. The ones who hunt. She spoke faster now, her accent becoming more pronounced. My vessel. It malfunctioned over your city 3 days ago. I crashed in the industrial sector. They tracked the signature. I've been running since. The searchlights were getting closer. Ethan could hear voices now, coordinated chatter, the sound of boots on pavement. They were sweeping the perimeter of the station. Why should I believe you? But even as he said it, he was looking at her skin, those impossible patterns, the way her eyes reflected light that wasn't there. No makeup, no prosthetics could create that effect. She moved toward him, and he noticed she limped, favoring her left leg. Through a tear in the jeans, his old jeans, he glimpsed what looked like a burn, the skin there darker, almost scorched, because you're the only one who showed kindness. Those clothes, they were warm. They smelled like safety, like someone who cared. I didn't give them to you. I threw them away. You gave them to whoever needed them. I needed them most. She clutched the jacket tighter. In my world, such gestures create debt. Bond. I chose you to trust. A voice crackled over a loudspeaker outside. Attention. This is a federal operation. All civilians must evacuate the area immediately. This is not a drill. The woman, he needed to call her something, pressed herself against the wall. They'll take me, dissect me. I've seen what they do on your broadcasts, your films. You fear what you don't understand. Ethan's mind raced. If he turned her in, he'd be safe. He'd be a hero, maybe. But looking at her now, terrified and injured, wearing his old clothes like armor against the cold, he saw someone who needed help. Not a monster, not an invasion, just someone alone and afraid. "What's your name?" he asked. She blinked, surprised. "Kaya. In your tongue it means ocean? Deep water?" Ethan, he made a decision that would change everything. "Can you walk?" "Yes, but not fast." "Then we need to move. Now." He grabbed her arm. Her skin was warm, almost feverish, and pulled her toward the maintenance tunnels. There's a service exit that leads to the old subway system. They won't have mapped it yet. "You're helping me?" Disbelief colored her voice. I'm an idiot, apparently. But he didn't let go of her arm as they ran through the darkened corridors. Behind them, he heard the south entrance doors bang open, heard shouted commands and the sound of many feet. They ducked into a narrow maintenance corridor. Ethan's badge granted him access to areas most people didn't know existed. Kaya pressed close to him in the darkness, her breathing rapid. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you, Ethan." He thought about his apartment, his routine life, his predictable future. All of it was about to disappear. "Don't thank me yet. If they catch us, we're both in serious trouble. Then we don't get caught." Ethan's apartment was a fourth-floor walk-up in a building that had seen better decades. He checked the street 3 times before hustling Kaya inside, his heart hammering against his ribs. Every car that passed could be surveillance. Every pedestrian could be an agent. "It's not much," he said, locking the door and engaging the deadbolt, the chain, the security bar he'd installed after a break-in 2 years ago. "But it's off the grid. I rent under my grandmother's name for tax reasons." Kaya stood in the center of his small living room, dripping rainwater onto the hardwood floor, looking around with wide eyes. She touched the lamp, the worn couch, the stack of books on the coffee table, each contact gentle, reverent, as if everything was precious. "You live alone?" she asked. "For 6 months now." "My ex. She left." "I'm sorry." "Don't be." "I'm not." He grabbed towels from the bathroom, handed her one. "You should get out of those wet clothes." "I have." He paused, realizing the absurdity. "I have more old clothes. Stuff that actually fits me." Kaya's lips curved into something that might have been a smile. "These fit me. They're perfect." While she dried off, Ethan moved the windows, carefully adjusting the blinds, so they could see out without being seen. The street looked normal. Too normal. He pulled out his phone, then hesitated. Could they track it? Were they already tracking it? "Your technology," Kaya said from behind him. "It's primitive but pervasive. They can't trace you through that device unless they know to look for you specifically." "That's not as comforting as you think." He set the phone down anyway. "That burn on your leg. Can I look at it?" She hesitated, then nodded. Sitting on his couch, Ethan knelt before her, gently rolling up the denim. The burn was worse than he'd thought. A starburst pattern of darkened skin spreading from her calf, the edges raised and angry. But it wasn't bleeding. It wasn't even oozing. It looked cauterized. "The crash," she explained. "My ship's core destabilized. This was from the containment field breach. It should have killed me." "Why didn't it?" "My people were resilient. We have to be. Space is not forgiving." Ethan went to his bathroom, returned with a first aid kit. As he cleaned the wound, she didn't flinch, didn't make a sound. He found himself studying her more closely. The patterns on her skin weren't tattoos or paint. They seemed to exist beneath the surface, pulsing faintly with her heartbeat. Blues and silvers that shifted as he watched. "Beautiful," he murmured, then caught himself. "Sorry, that was..." "True." Kaya's hand covered his, stopping his ministrations. Her skin was so warm. "On my world, these markings are ordinary. Here, I am extraordinary." Strange how perspective changes everything. Their eyes met, and Ethan felt something shift in his chest. This was insane. She was alien, literally alien, from another world. And yet, sitting here in his shabby apartment, her hand on his, she felt more real than anything had felt in months. "Why Earth?" he asked. "Of all the planets, why come here?" "We didn't plan to. We were escorting a research vessel. There was an attack. Pirates, you might call them. We fled through your system to escape. My ship was damaged. I had to land." Her expression darkened. "My crew, I don't know if they made it." "I'm sorry." Sorry seems to be something your people say often, when we don't know what else to say. "Yeah." She shifted closer, her injured leg stretched out across his lap. In the dim light of his apartment, the glow in her eyes was more pronounced. "Ethan, why did you help me? Really?" He thought about lying, about saying something noble, but her gaze demanded honesty. "Because you were scared, because you needed help, and because—" He paused. "Because throwing away those clothes felt like giving up on the person I used to be, the person who helped people without overthinking it. When I saw you wearing them, it felt like the universe giving me one more chance." "One more chance at what?" "Being someone worth knowing." Kaya leaned in, her breath warm on his face. Her lips hovered near his, and Ethan's pulse thundered in his ears. This was crazy. This was beyond crazy. But when she kissed him, soft and questioning, he kissed her back. She tasted like rain and something else, something indefinable. Her hands found his face, his neck, pulling him closer. The first aid kit clattered to the floor, forgotten. They moved to his bedroom in a tangle of limbs and desperation. Ethan knew this was wrong on 100 different levels. She was alien. She was running. They'd known each other for less than 3 hours. But her hands on his skin felt like coming home to a place he'd never been. "Tell me to stop," he breathed against her neck, even as he peeled off his jacket. Her jacket now, from her shoulders. "Don't stop," Kaya whispered, her fingers working at his shirt buttons. "Please. I've been so cold, so alone. I need to feel connected." Her skin was silk and fire beneath his touch. The patterns he'd noticed earlier spread across her shoulders, down her spine, swirling across her ribs like constellations. They pulsed brighter as his fingers traced them, responding to his touch with soft bioluminescence. "Does that hurt?" he asked, mesmerized. "No, it feels—" She arched into his hand. "It feels like home, like being seen." They made love slowly at first, learning each other's bodies with careful exploration. She was different. Her anatomy similar enough but not identical. Her responses more intense, more visceral. When she cried out, it wasn't entirely in English, but he understood the meaning. When he whispered her name, her eyes glowed brighter, and she pulled him deeper into her embrace. Afterward, they lay tangled in his sheets, the city lights filtering through blinds creating patterns on the ceiling. Kaya traced circles on his chest, her head resting over his heart. "On my world," she said softly, "physical intimacy creates a bond, a link between minds. I can feel you now. Your worry, your fear, but also your hope. Can you read my thoughts?" "No, just emotions, impressions." She propped herself up on one elbow, looking down at him. "You're thinking this was a mistake. I'm thinking it was the least logical thing I've ever done." He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "I'm also thinking I don't regret it." She smiled. A genuine smile this time, lighting up her whole face. "I don't regret it either. Even if they find us tomorrow. Even if this is all the time we have. This moment, it was worth it." Ethan pulled her close, feeling the warmth of her against him. "We're going to need a plan. They'll be searching every—" A knock on the door made them both freeze. Then a voice, male, authoritative. "Ethan Warner? This is Agent Morrison with Homeland Security. We need to speak with you about an incident at Central Station." Kaya's eyes went wide with terror. She started to sit up, but Ethan held her still. "The fire escape," he mouthed. "In the kitchen." Another knock, harder this time. "Mr. Warner, we know you're home. Your neighbor confirmed seeing you enter with an unidentified female approximately 45 minutes ago. We need to ask you some questions." Ethan pulled on his jeans, moving quietly. He gestured for Kaya to get dressed, his mind racing. The fire escape led to an alley. From there, they could reach the subway, lose themselves in the tunnels. But that was assuming they could get out before. The sound of a key turning in his lock made his blood run cold. They were coming in. Bedroom window. Ethan hissed, "Go!" Kaya moved like liquid shadow, grabbing the jacket. That damn jacket that started everything, and diving for the window. Ethan heard his front door open, heard footsteps in his living room. He grabbed a backpack, threw in clothes, his wallet, anything he could reach. "Mr. Warner?" The voice was closer now. Ethan followed Kaya through the window onto the fire escape, just as his bedroom door burst open. Flashlight beams cut through the darkness. Someone shouted. They ran. The subway tunnels were darker than Ethan remembered. He'd explored them in college. Urban exploration with friends who didn't know the meaning of trespassing laws. Now they were a lifeline, a maze to lose themselves in. Kaya moved confidently despite her injury, her eyes providing more light than his phone's flashlight ever could. They followed the old maintenance paths, past graffiti and forgotten equipment, deeper into the city's hidden infrastructure. "Where are we going?" she asked, her voice echoing off concrete walls. "I don't know. Away." Ethan checked his phone. 17 missed calls, all from unknown numbers. He powered it down. "Do you have a plan? Some way to contact your people?" "There's an emergency beacon in my ship." She paused, leaning against the wall to catch her breath. But getting to it would mean going back to the crash site. They'll have it surrounded by now. "So we're stuck. We're alive. That's more than I expected after the crash." She touched his face, her fingers cool. "More than I deserved after everything." They found a maintenance alcove, hidden behind a sealed door that Ethan jimmied open with tools from his backpack. Inside was a small space with old equipment and, miraculously, a functioning electrical outlet. Not comfortable, but safe. Hidden. Kaya collapsed onto a tarp, exhaustion finally catching up with her. Ethan sat beside her, his body aching, his mind struggling to process the last few hours. He'd given away old clothes. Now he was a fugitive helping an alien evade capture. His life had become a science fiction novel. "Ethan," Kaya said softly, "the bond one mentioned earlier, it works both ways. I feel your exhaustion, your fear, but I also feel regret. Not for helping you." He laced his fingers through hers. "Never for that. But I'm realizing I might have just destroyed your chance at getting home. If we'd gone with them, maybe they could have helped you, returned you to your people. Your government doesn't return. It studies. It contains." She pulled him down beside her. "I've intercepted your broadcasts, your news. I know what happens to things you don't understand. I'd rather die free with you than live in a cage alone." They held each other in the darkness, the sound of distant trains rumbling overhead. Eventually, Kaya spoke again. "There might be another way. Other ships come through this system, sometimes. Trading vessels, scouts. If I can send a signal, if someone receives it." "How long?" "Weeks. Maybe months. Would you stay with me that long?" Ethan thought about his apartment, now compromised. His job, which he could never return to. His old life, which had already felt empty before tonight. Then he looked at Kaya, this impossible, beautiful, terrifying person who crashed into his world and changed everything. "Yeah," he said, "I could do that." She kissed him then, deep and grateful, and they made love again in that forgotten space beneath the city. Two refugees finding warmth in each other while the world searched above. Days turned into weeks. They moved through the underground, Ethan using his knowledge of the city to keep them fed and hidden. Kaya taught him about her world, the vast civilizations among the stars, the politics and beauty of species he'd never imagined. He taught her about Earth, its music, its food, the small joys of being human. They fell in love properly, in the way people do when the world outside stops mattering. 6 weeks after the crash, Kaya's beacon finally received an answer. A rescue ship, small and fast, landed in the industrial sector on a moonless night. Ethan stood with her as her people emerged. Others like her, marked with glowing patterns, their eyes bright with relief. "Come with me," Kaya said, holding his hand. "Please, we can give you citizenship, a new life. You'd be exotic, strange, but safe." Ethan looked at the ship, then back at the city skyline. Everything he'd known was here, but everything he'd become with her. "Will they have coffee?" he asked. Kaya laughed, the sound like music. "We'll get you coffee." As the ship lifted into the night sky, Ethan watched Earth shrink below them. Somewhere down there, in a donation bin behind a transit station, was an empty space where a bag of old clothes used to be. That simple act of discarding the past had given him a future he never could have imagined. Kaya squeezed his hand, her patterns glowing bright. No regrets. Ethan pulled her close, kissed her under alien stars. Not one. And as they jumped to light speed, leaving Earth behind, he realized that sometimes the best journeys begin with letting go of who you were, to discover who you're meant to become.